Hello, everyone. I'm Diana Mao, Shadow Tantrika, Astro Mystic, and lover of the unseen realms. Welcome to my channel where every month I share a mini channeled reading of the astrological weather. It's not a full breakdown, so I don't go into detail about all the aspects and all the planets, just the messages from the symbols that are coming through the strongest. So, the really insistent ones that are demanding to be heard. So you can look at this a little bit like a pulse from the cosmos, or even a little doorway into the energies of the moment. So today we're going to be taking a look at the energies for the full moon in Gemini that's going to be happening on Friday, the 4th of December, or Saturday, the 5th, depending on where you are on the planet. And it really feels like a big crossroads energy, actually. And of course, the messages might resonate for some of you more strongly than they do for others. And this is completely dependent on how the configurations are impacting your personal chart, your personal blueprint. And at the same time, as we all know, we're all in this together. So on some level and in some dimension or other, the collective themes are going to be playing out for all of us. So let me know in the comments how everything's unfolding for you. I would love to hear. And if you would like to receive the next transmissions from the Star Stream, then don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. That way you get notified when the next reading comes out. So with all of this said, then let's cross the threshold. Okay, welcome to the ethers. Now, before I start, just a quick note. Ignore the houses you see here. So this chart is set for Kopangan because I live in Thailand. So you're going to need to adjust the chart to your own location if you're going to be working with this personally. So here we have the full moon in Gemini opposing the sun in Sagittarius. And look at how many planets are conjunct the sun at this full moon. We have Mars, we have Juno, Venus, Lilith. We've also got the galactic center at 27 degrees. That's not on this chart. But this basically means that the energy of Sagittarius is really, really strong and everything is feeling very, very amped up. And the initial feeling that comes through is a lot of optimism, a lot of forward moving drive. Like a lot of desire to move things forward now. Sagittarius is a very visionary sign and very focused on the big picture, on the big vision. Whereas Gemini, the opposite sign, is essentially the antidote. So Gemini likes to look at all the little details, likes to break it all down. And here, as we can see, the moon in Gemini is sitting all on its own, completely alone. So this full moon, it feels especially pointed. Full moons always highlight an axis, with the full moon reflecting and reflecting what has been hidden and what's ready to be revealed, what wants to come into consciousness now. But now with this Gemini moon being all on its own, it becomes an even sharper mirror to the energy of the sun, to what's coming into consciousness. So to this Sagittarian stellium. Sagittarius rules beliefs, meaning, faith, the overarching worldview, whereas Gemini is the mind, the details, accuracy in the present moment, logic, curiosity. And Sag is conviction, philosophy. So Sag may well be saying, this is the truth, this is the big vision. And Gemini is saying, well, says who? Like, based on what? What are the facts? Give me the facts. I wanna see all the nuts and bolts. I want to see all the pieces. I want to see if it adds up. So this full moon then is exposing where we've become over-identified with a belief, with a certainty, with an ideology, with a tired old narrative, even a sense of righteousness, a belief that this is true no matter what. All Sagittarian shadows. And the moon in Gemini is bringing in the nuance, bringing in the questions, the memories, the context. It wants context. It wants to look at it from all the multiple angles. Gemini's medicine is, it's the antidote to any old beliefs or philosophies that need to be torn down. Like Sagittarius can be way too sure of itself, and the moon in Gemini is here to pop that balloon like the trickster that Gemini is. So yeah, a good question to ask yourself under this lunation is, what am I believing here? And is this belief, is it coming from an expanded consciousness, or is it coming from old programming? And this is especially relevant because of the recent Scorpio new moon that we had, a couple of weeks ago, and that was conjunct Mercury retrograde. So that began the process of breaking open old shadows, letting all the buried stuff come to the surface. And so now then, with so much Sagittarian energy, this forward momentum, this let's go, nothing wants to be held back anymore. And it feels like this lunation is a breakthrough point. Now, something that's not technically exact yet in this chart, but absolutely is part of the unfolding, and I really want to talk about it, is this Mercury in Scorpio. So that was retrograde, conjunct the new moon in Scorpio 2 weeks ago. Now it's here in the chart. Now it's direct at 22 degrees of Scorpio. And as you can see, it's opposing Uranus currently at 28 degrees. So it's not exact yet, but it will be. It will be on the 11th of December. And this, to me, feels like the pivot point, a real pivot point of this whole lunation. Mercury-Uranus, this opposition, it brings truths. So Mercury rules communication, messages, and Uranus brings the lightning bolt, a breakthrough. It's the higher octave of Mercury. It's like a truths erupting out of nowhere, hidden information. Mercury being in Scorpio, that's now emerging. It's emerging. Mercury is now direct. It also feels like a thought or an insight that, like breaks through an old comfort zone. And with all of this energy in Sagittarius, like a belief cracking open, a new meaning structure forming. So although this full moon, I mean, it feels destabilizing, but I don't mean destructively so. I mean, as we know, all destruction precedes creation anyway. But especially with this Sagittarian amplification, as I said, this really feels like the start of a breakthrough that can free something that was previously stuck. And Mercury-Uranus on the 11th is the cosmic code breaker. It breaks lies, perceptual blind spots, and also a sense of loyalty, an outdated loyalty to an inner narrative that's no longer relevant. And we're being pushed towards freedom and a sense of movement and expansion, authenticity, new horizons, and new self-stories. So Gemini keeps the mind sharp and honest. Sagittarius wants expansion, and Mercury, Uranus breaks the lock. And this is why the energy is so catalytic, particularly after this opposition with Mercury-Uranus. It really feels like the click after that whole Scorpio descent. Here begins the release into a higher state of consciousness. So Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter in this chart is currently retrograde in Cancer, which links this full moon to the home, to the old, actually, to the past. So whilst there's such a forward momentum, a breakthrough, it's coming from a release of something, an old belief, an old way of being that originated in the past. Cancer rules family, the home, the original family, where how you grew up. And so there's also beliefs that you may have inherited from your lineage. So before leaping forward with anything, this is the message to look at the emotional foundations that you're leaping from. Where are your truths coming from? Are they yours? Is this belief yours? Is it something that you absorbed in order to belong? What beliefs did you inherit? And what beliefs are actually aligned with who you've become and with who you're becoming, most importantly. And to allow space for this to emerge. Allow the space, because Sagittarius wants to declare meaning immediately, wants to jump to the conclusion and, to the overarching meaning, the result. It's very visionary, very goal-oriented, but Gemini, on the other hand, Gemini doesn't like being stuck on anything. And where both sides of the polarity, they both stand for truth, then Gemini wants to know what's true in every given moment. And as we know, truth can therefore change in every given moment. It can't be stuck. In order to be fully accurate, we have to be fluid. We have to be perceptive and open-minded enough to hit what's actually true and to access that and to be prepared for surprise. Also, Gemini is always asking, how can you be so certain? What's true in this moment? So the message is very much a case of not locking yourself into meaning before you've heard the whole story. And even then, remembering that the story is always evolving, right? Piece by piece by piece. And the pieces matter. The pieces are what makes up the whole. If the pieces aren't in the right place, then the foundations aren't solid, so you can forget about your vision. You can forget about your vision. So Sagittarius being eager, wanting to move forward, but see everything. Don't spring forward from an old belief system. An old belief system. So if we can actually allow this forward momentum without jumping to conclusions too soon. So then if we can work with this access fully, taking into account both sides of the polarity, then this is the medicine. This is the medicine. This is the moment, or this is the point from which truth, real truth, can move you forward, and a stuck narrative snaps. Something becomes clear, and then a new pathway opens from a completely new space in yourself. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention in this chart is this delicious Venus-Lilith conjunction in Sag. So Venus is what we value. Lilith describes what we were shamed for. So this is, it's like a reclamation of forbidden desire, not just sexual desire. This is in Sagittarius. So it's philosophical, it's existential. So the question or the invitation is to ask yourself, are you ready to value the part of yourself that you once called, too wild, too free, too honest, too much, too blunt, too optimistic, too alive? Sagittarius is very alive. Are you ready to value the part of yourself that you have been suppressing because you were afraid? You were afraid of all of this life that wanted to surge from you. So this is shame around taking up space, breaking old roles, being uncaged, breaking forth from old restrictive paradigms, shining, expressing your truth, not asking permission, just being you, your wild, unadulterated self. And breaking away old shame around your natural brilliance, your freedom, like a part of yourself that was exiled is now asking to come home. The part that doesn't apologize, that doesn't shrink, that doesn't wait for validation to exist, just exists, it just lives, it just expresses. And it this is what it lives for. This full moon axis is fundamentally about truth. Your truth is your truth, and this is a call to live it in the full faith that when you're not being led by blind optimism, when your vision is also led by the discernment and the accuracy of Gemini, then you're always going to be held and you're always going to be supported. Oh, that's it from me for today. Thank you so much for traveling with me on these lunar currents. I really hope that you enjoyed this mini astral weather report. So until the next time the moon calls us, stay open, stay brave, stay a little dangerous. And as I always like to say, don't forget that the shadow always tells the truth and liberation always happens on the edge.